Hey there. Thanks for sending over this YouTube video about thiamine. You've got great taste and sources. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to dive into this with our resident thiamine expert, Elliot Overton. Elliot's been doing some fascinating research on this often overlooked B vitamin. And honestly, after reviewing his work, I'm starting to think we should all be paying more attention to it.
Yeah, it's true. Thiamine often flies under the radar, but it's absolutely crucial for so many functions in the body, from energy production to gut health.
Exactly. And one of the things that really struck me about Elliot Overton's work is this concept of hidden thiamine deficiency. It's kind of unsettling to think that conventional blood tests might not be catching a deficiency, especially if it's localized to a specific organ like the brain.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We often rely on these standard blood tests to assess nutrient status, but when it comes to thiamine, they can be quite misleading. You could be deficient in the brain, for example, without it showing up systemically in your blood work.
So how do we know if we're actually deficient then? What should we be looking out for?
Well, that's where things get tricky. Thiamine deficiency symptoms can be quite diverse and often mimic other conditions. Fatigue is a big one, of course. But we also see things like brain fog, anxiety, irritability, even muscle cramps, and weakness.
That sounds like a laundry list of symptoms most of us experience at some point. Is there any way to know for sure if thiamine is the culprit?
Unfortunately, there's no single definitive test. It often involves a combination of evaluating symptoms, looking at potential risk factors like chronic stress or poor diet, and sometimes even doing a trial of thiamine supplementation to see if symptoms improve.
Okay, so let's say someone suspects they might be deficient. Why is thiamine so important anyway? What does it actually do in the body?
So thiamine plays a critical role in a number of key metabolic processes, but its primary function is in energy production. It's a vital component of several enzymes involved in converting glucose into energy within our cells.
I remember Elliot Overton using this really cool analogy in his video. He compared thiamine to a spark plug in a car.
That's a great way to think about it. If your spark plug is faulty, the car won't run efficiently, even if you have a full tank of gas. Similarly, if you're deficient in thiamine, your cells won't be able to generate energy effectively, no matter how many calories you consume.
That makes so much sense.
Mhm.
So even if someone isn't technically deficient, could they still benefit from taking thiamine?
Absolutely. That's one of the most fascinating things about thiamine. It can act almost like a drug, correcting certain metabolic issues, even in people who aren't technically deficient. Think of it as optimizing your cellular energy systems.
I'm curious about the connection between thiamine and stress. Elliot Overton's research found that stress of any kind actually depletes thiamine levels across multiple life forms, from plants to humans. Why would that be?
It's a brilliant evolutionary adaptation. When we're under stress, our bodies need more thiamine to cope with the increased metabolic demands. It's like our cells are saying, hey, we need more of this vital nutrient to handle this challenge.
But doesn't that create a bit of a vicious cycle? The more stressed we are, the more thiamine we deplete, and potentially the harder it becomes to cope with that stress.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to address both sides of the equation. Managing stress levels through things like mindfulness, exercise, or good sleep hygiene, while also ensuring adequate thiamine intake through diet or supplementation.
This is blowing my mind. It's like we're all walking around with these thiamine reserves that are constantly being tapped into by the daily stressors of modern life.
In a way, yes, and that's why it's so crucial to be aware of this connection and take steps to support our thiamine levels.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the connection between thiamine and gut health. I have to admit, I was surprised to learn about this link.
It's often overlooked, but thiamine plays a significant role in gut function, particularly through its impact on the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve. Remind us what that is again?
It's essentially the communication superhighway between the brain and the gut. It plays a critical role in regulating everything from digestion and motility to mood and inflammation.
So how does thiamine fit into all of this?
Well, thiamine is essential for the proper functioning of the vagus nerve. When thiamine levels are low, the vagus nerve can become dysfunctional, leading to a whole host of problems, from constipation and bloating to nausea and even anxiety.
That's fascinating. So if someone is struggling with gut issues that haven't responded to other therapies, thiamine might be worth considering.
Absolutely. It's definitely a tool worth exploring, especially if there are other signs of potential thiamine deficiency.
This is all so incredibly insightful, and I'm already starting to connect the dots in my own life. Before we move on, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who's tuning in today.
Yeah.
Your support truly means the world to us. And it's what allows us to keep bringing you these deep dives into fascinating topics like thiamine.
We couldn't do it without you.
Exactly. So please, if you're enjoying this episode, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. The more people we can reach with this information, the better.
Couldn't agree more.
Now back to thiamine. One of the things that Elliot Overton highlights in his work is the potential overlap between thiamine deficiency symptoms and those of chronic infections like Lyme disease. This is where things get really interesting and potentially a bit more complex.
Yeah, it's true. The symptoms of thiamine deficiency and chronic infections, they can be surprisingly similar. Fatigue, brain fog, muscle aches, even neurological issues. These can manifest in both scenarios.
So how do you differentiate between the two? Is it possible someone could be misdiagnosed?
It definitely happens, and that's why it's so important to have a thorough medical evaluation. A good doctor will consider all potential causes, including infections, nutrient deficiencies, and other underlying conditions.
I know Elliot Overton has seen some remarkable responses to thiamine therapy in patients with Lyme disease and other chronic inflammatory conditions like mold illness.
Yeah, there's growing evidence to suggest that thiamine can play a supportive role in these cases. It's not a cure, of course, but it can help address some of the symptoms and potentially support the immune system.
But I also remember him issuing a word of caution about something called the cell danger response. What's that all about?
Right, this is where things get a little nuanced. The cell danger response is essentially a protective mechanism that kicks in when cells sense a threat, like an active infection. They go into a kind of lockdown mode, conserving energy and resources.
So what does that have to do with thiamine?
Well, giving thiamine at the wrong time during this active infection phase can potentially backfire. It's like trying to force a cell to expend energy when it's trying to conserve it. It can actually make symptoms worse.
Okay, so that's a pretty important caveat. How do you know when it's safe to use thiamine in someone with a chronic infection?
It's not always easy to determine. And that's why it's so crucial to work with a knowledgeable practitioner who understands the nuances of thiamine therapy and the complexities of chronic infections. They can help assess the situation and determine the appropriate timing and dosage.
This is all starting to feel a bit like a detective story. We've got these overlapping symptoms, the potential for misdiagnosis, and then this whole cell danger response thing to consider. It seems like thiamine therapy requires a lot of careful consideration and personalized guidance.
It absolutely does. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And there's still a lot we're learning about how thiamine interacts with various conditions.
That actually reminds me of something else that Elliot Overton mentioned in his work, the connection between thiamine and mitochondrial health. It seems like these two are deeply intertwined. And understanding this connection might be crucial for getting the most out of thiamine therapy.
You're absolutely right. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells, responsible for generating energy. And guess what? Thiamine is a key player in that process.
So if our mitochondria aren't functioning optimally, could that impact our ability to utilize thiamine effectively?
That's exactly right. And this is where things get even more interesting. Thiamine can actually exacerbate symptoms in some people, which might be a sign of deeper mitochondrial dysfunction.
Wait, so taking thiamine could make things worse in some cases? That seems counterintuitive.
It can. And it highlights the importance of addressing underlying mitochondrial issues. Before focusing solely on thiamine supplementation, sometimes it's like putting the cart before the horse.
So how do we support mitochondrial health? What are some strategies we can implement?
There are a number of things we can do. Fasting, for example, has been shown to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, which is the creation of new mitochondria.
So by giving our bodies a break from digestion, we're actually promoting the growth of new energy-producing cells.
Exactly. It's like giving your mitochondria a chance to regenerate and become more efficient.
What about exercise? Does that play a role in mitochondrial health?
Absolutely. When done appropriately, exercise can act as a powerful signal for mitochondrial biogenesis. It's like sending a message to your cells saying, hey, we need more energy powerhouses here.
So finding ways to move our bodies regularly, even if it's just gentle walks or yoga, can actually improve our mitochondrial function.
Exactly. And there's another powerful tool that often gets overlooked, sauna therapy.
Sauna therapy, like sweating it out in a hot room.
Yeah.
How does that benefit mitochondria?
It's incredible. Heat stress like that experienced in a sauna can actually trigger a process called mitophagy.
Mitophagy? That sounds intense. What is it?
It's essentially the cleaning out of damaged mitochondria. Think of it like a cellular spring cleaning for your energy systems.
Wow, so the heat from the sauna is helping our bodies get rid of those old, worn-out mitochondria.
Precisely. And this allows for the growth of new healthy mitochondria, leading to improved energy production and overall cellular function.
Okay, so we've got fasting, exercise, and sauna therapy. Any other tricks up your sleeve?
There's one more I want to mention, NAD plus supplementation.
NAD plus cat. It's one I've been hearing a lot about lately. What's its connection to mitochondria?
NAD plus, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, is a coenzyme found in all living cells. It plays a vital role in a wide range of cellular processes, including energy production within the mitochondria.
So supplementing with NAD plus could potentially boost our mitochondrial function.
That's the idea. And there's growing research suggesting that NAD plus supplementation can have a number of benefits, including improved energy levels, cognitive function, and even longevity.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all this information. It seems like there's so much to consider when it comes to supporting mitochondrial health and optimizing thiamine therapy.
I understand. It's a lot to take in. But the good news is that you don't have to do everything at once. Start with small, sustainable changes and gradually incorporate more strategies as you feel comfortable.
That's reassuring. So what are some practical steps someone could take to start supporting their mitochondrial health?
Well, incorporating some of the strategies we've already discussed is a great start. Experiment with intermittent fasting, add in some regular exercise, maybe try a sauna session if you have access to one.
And what about NAD plus supplementation? Is that something people should be considering?
It's definitely a promising area, but as with any supplement, it's important to do your research and talk to your doctor before starting.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far. We've covered so much ground, from the basics of thiamine deficiency to the complexities of the cell danger response and the importance of supporting mitochondrial health. Before we move on to the practicalities of thiamine repletion, I just want to remind everyone to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with your friends. Your support means everything to us.
We appreciate you all so much.
Now let's take a closer look at the different forms of thiamine supplements and how to choose the right one for your needs. Okay, so let's say someone wants to start incorporating thiamine. Are all supplements created equal?
That's a great question. There are actually several different forms of thiamine supplements, each with its own unique properties and benefits.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for us.
One of the most popular forms is benfotiamine. It's a fat-soluble derivative of thiamine, meaning it's absorbed more easily and can cross the blood-brain barrier more effectively.
So that's the one to go for if you're dealing with brain fog or cognitive issues.
Yeah, it can be a good choice, particularly for conditions like neuropathy, where nerve damage is involved. Benfotiamine has been shown to help reduce pain and improve nerve function.
That's good to know. What are some of the other options?
Another common form is TTFD, or thiamine tetrahydrofurfuryl disulfide. This one is particularly interesting because it's highly effective in addressing gut issues.
So if someone's struggling with constipation, bloating, or other digestive discomforts, TTFD might be a good option.
Exactly. It seems to have a unique ability to improve gut motility and reduce inflammation in the digestive tract.
That's amazing. And what about good old-fashioned thiamine HCl? Is that still a viable option?
Absolutely. Thiamine HCl is the most basic form of thiamine supplement, and it's generally well tolerated. It's a good starting point for people who are new to thiamine supplementation.
How do you know which form is right for you?
It really depends on your individual needs and goals. If you're targeting specific symptoms or conditions, you might choose one form over another. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional to get personalized guidance.
Elliot Overton also mentioned something about a low and slow approach to thiamine supplementation. What's that all about?
It's basically a way to minimize potential side effects and assess your tolerance. Start with a low dose of thiamine HCl and gradually increase it over time, paying close attention to how you feel.
So it's kind of like easing your body into it.
Exactly. It's better to err on the side of caution, especially if you're dealing with a chronic condition.
Now, he also emphasized the importance of taking a B complex and magnesium alongside thiamine. Why is that?
Well, B vitamins work synergistically, meaning they function best when they're all present in adequate amounts. And magnesium plays a crucial role in thiamine activation and utilization within the cells.
So it's like creating a supportive environment for thiamine to do its job.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing the conditions for maximum benefit.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask about, this concept of a threshold dose. Elliot Overton mentioned that some people need very high doses of thiamine to see results. Why is that?
It's a fascinating phenomenon, and we don't fully understand it yet. It seems that some individuals have a higher requirement for thiamine, possibly due to genetic factors, chronic stress, or underlying health conditions.
So how do you know if you're one of those people who need a higher dose?
It often involves a bit of trial and error, working closely with a healthcare professional to find the optimal dose. It's important to start low and slow and gradually increase the dosage while monitoring for any changes in symptoms.
All of this is so incredibly insightful. I'm already starting to rethink my own relationship with thiamine and the importance of supporting my mitochondrial health.
It's empowering to understand how these things work, isn't it? Knowledge is power when it comes to our health.
Absolutely. And speaking of empowerment, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all of you amazing viewers out there. Your support is what allows us to keep creating these deep dives into fascinating topics like thiamine.
We're so grateful for this incredible community.
So if you're enjoying this episode, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. The more people we can reach with this information, the better equipped we all are to take charge of our health.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, back to thiamine. We've talked about the different forms of supplements and the importance of starting low and slow. But how long should someone try thiamine before deciding if it's working for them?
It's important to be patient. I would say give it at least a couple months. And remember, some people see improvements much later than others. It's really a journey of exploration and observation. And consistency is key.
That makes sense. And finally, I just wanted to touch on something that Elliot Overton mentioned in his work, the power of a good night's sleep. It seems that even he, a thiamine expert, can fall victim to poor sleep habits.
It's a reminder that we're all human, and life can get in the way of even the best intentions. But sleep is absolutely crucial for overall health and well-being, and it plays a significant role in mitochondrial function and thiamine utilization.
So if you're struggling with sleep, consider thiamine as a potential tool. But also remember the fundamentals: a consistent sleep schedule, a relaxing bedtime routine, and a dark, cool, and quiet sleep environment.
Those are the building blocks of quality sleep, and they can make a world of difference.
This has been an absolutely phenomenal deep dive, and I want to thank you, our brilliant expert, for guiding us through the intricacies of thiamine and mitochondrial health.
It's been my pleasure, and I want to commend you, our listener, for taking the time to invest in your knowledge and well-being.
Remember, thiamine is a powerful nutrient, but deficiency can be easily missed, and stress is often a major contributing factor. As you go about your day, consider the stressors in your life and how they might be impacting your thiamine levels. And if you're inspired to learn more, be sure to check out Elliot Overton's YouTube channel and Facebook group for a wealth of valuable information.
And before we sign off, I want to echo Elliot Overton's call to action. If you found this deep dive valuable, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video, and sharing it with your friends. Your support helps us grow and reach more people seeking health information. Together, we can empower each other to live healthier, more vibrant lives.
Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and take good care of yourself.